Are y'all ready for part 2 of MIXTAPE? Come on, make some noise. Let's go. Love, sex, and marriage. And if you're kind of wondering, maybe this is your first week with us, you're going, why are you doing a series on love, sex, and marriage calling it MIXTAPE? Well, if you grew up in the 80s like I did, then you know that if you ever wanted to have a playlist of songs, you had to make a labor of love called a mixtape. And I'm really curious, how many of you have never made a mixtape? You've never made? Wow, this is incredible. Okay, we're gonna have to culture you at some point in your life. But it's an amazing experience, especially like when you fall in love with somebody and it takes a lot of love. And it's a very loose connection. The only connection is that like a mixtape, relationships take work. They take work. Matter of fact, if you know the real way to spell marriage, I want you to spell it with me out loud on the count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. W-O-R. There it is right there. That's how, it's work. That's how you spell marriage. And nobody taught me that. Right? Like growing up, no one taught me that. I just thought love was natural. I'd always feel love. I wouldn't have to work for love. It's just gonna be amazing. I'm gonna fall in love. Then I'm gonna meet my wife, and I did. And then I just thought sex would naturally just come. No one taught me how to work at that. No one ever taught me that you gotta deal with like conflict and communication issues because every house is bilingual. It's what you speak and what she speaks. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you'd have to deal with like issues and emotions and children. Nobody taught me that real marriage and real relationships actually take work. And so that's really what we're going after in this series, how to build relationships that really honor God, that are built to last. And so today, if this is a boxing match, this is round 2. And what I mean by that is that this really is a spiritual battle. Marriage and family is spiritual before it's physical. You feel it in the physical, but it's really happening in the spiritual. And you have an enemy. And no, it's not your spouse. It's not the person that sleeps in the bed next to you, and contrary to what you might think, it's not even your ex. And you're like, but you haven't met my ex. They're horrible. Okay, I get it. But that's not your real enemy. No, your enemy is Satan, the devil. And what he has been doing to destroy marriages since Adam and Eve is the same thing that he's been doing to try to get in between you and your relationship. The number one goal of the enemy, because y'all know, like Satan can't create anything new. I think sometimes we give the devil too much credit. He's not everywhere. He's not like God. He can't create anything new. So you know what he does? He distorts. God creates sex. The enemy creates pornography. God creates marriage. The enemy creates divorce. And we could keep going down the line. And so this is a battle. And here's the goal of the enemy. It is to seek, kill, and destroy every good thing that God wants for you. Hey, Satan knows, if I can't unsave them as a follower of Jesus, which by the way, the enemy cannot unsave you, then his second approach then is to try to make you live the most miserable life possible while you're here on this earth. And he often does it through relationships. Matter of fact, we said last Sunday that it's really hard to live fully alive when relationally you're just trying to survive. And so today, this is round 2. I hope you're ready. If you got a Bible, let's grab it. Y'all ready? Let's go to, we're gonna go to the Old Testament book of Ruth. Old Testament book of Ruth. Last Sunday, I really laid a pretty heavy foundation. Today, I decided it'd be nice to do a little Bible study. Can we do that? A little, 4 of you. Okay, wow, all right. We're gonna do this little Bible study in the book of Ruth, and one of the things I'm really honored today is this really is a message for all my single adults in the house and watching online today. Matter of fact, if you're single, come on, make some noise, wave your hand in the air like you just do care. Okay, we see you, all right, calm down. And you know what I love about taking a moment in the midst of a series to really talk and address singles is because singles typically feel like the third wheel in a church when you talk about love, sex, and marriage. And so I decided I'm just gonna give you a whole message dedicated just for you. Now, married couples, don't check out, all right? Don't log off the live stream and join another church, okay? Because there's some gold in all of this for all of us. Matter of fact, here's what I would challenge you, single or married adults. You ready? Married adults, never stop being good at singleness. Now, hold on to that statement. I know that's kind of odd. Hold on to that statement, and it's gonna make sense at the very end. But today, we're gonna talk to the singles. Ruth chapter 1, I'm gonna start in verse 3. If you're ready, come on, tell me I'm ready. All right, here we go. By the way, this is interactive, so I think preaching's a two-way street. Like I'm gonna do my part, but the level in which you get out of this is ultimately up to you. Okay, all right, I'll try that another time. Ruth chapter 1 verse 3 says this, now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. It starts off great, doesn't it? We already have a death. Then they married Moabite women, one named Orpah, not Oprah, but Orpah, and I'm gonna explain this as we go on today, but let's just read this in its entirety, and the other was Ruth. And they lived there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion, that's Naomi's sons, also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Are you encouraged? Are we off to a good start? Okay, all right, verse 6. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left to the place where she had been living, and she set out on the road that would take them all the way back to the land of Judah. Now, Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, listen, girls, go back. Go back to what? You don't have any loyalty to me. You know, the family name has been destroyed. Just go back home. That's what she said. Go back, and each of you to your mother's house, and may the Lord show you kindness as you've shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. And may the Lord grant each of you that you will find rest in a home of another husband. And then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud, and said to her, we will go back with you to your people. But look at verse 14. At this, they wept aloud again. And Orpah, notice what she does, kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Orpah said, I'm out. I'm going home. And Ruth said, I'm staying with you. I want to speak to you today, part 2 of our Love, Sex, and Marriage series mixtape from this subject right here, single and secure. I like that, single and secure. Let's pray one more time, can we, Father? We thank you, Lord, for your word. We thank you, God, that it is timeless. God, that these same principles that really elevated life thousands of years ago are the same principles, God, that we can build our lives on and experience the fullness of your love. So Lord, I just pause because I recognize the spiritual battle when we talk about love, sex, and marriage. These are wounds, there's hurt, there's frustration. And so Lord, today I pray that we all humble ourselves under you, and ultimately, God, we want what you want for us. We love you. It's in your name. Amen. Amen. You know, dating's interesting, isn't it? Right, because I don't think I've ever met anybody who actually loves to date. But I think we get it. It's like it's part of the process. So what do? We embrace dating because you probably should do that before you tie your life to somebody. Like, it's just probably a good idea. But nobody really likes it. And I think the reason why we don't like it is because like we know going into a relationship that unless we get married, this thing's gonna end and it's gonna hurt. Like someone's gonna get hurt. There's gonna be heartbreak. We're gonna have to break up. I'm gonna have to lie to you and tell you that it's not you, it's me. And then you get in Christian settings like this, and Christians are even worse. We'd like put God in it, and we say things like, I just can't go out with you. I'm dating Jesus. I need to, right? Or, you know, God spoke to me, and I'm gonna be a missionary as far away from you as possible. So some of you are like, say that again? That's a good line, right? But you know, you'll probably date what? 4 or 5, maybe 6 serious people in your life. So all of those relationships, except for one, it's gonna end in heartbreak. And it doesn't matter what age you are, what stage of life, like heartbreak it's hard, it's tough. And I think it's even worse at the elementary age level. Because elementary kids are savages, aren't they? They don't have a filter, all they know is honesty, all right? They're not gonna give you the cliche phrases, they're just gonna tell you straight up, like what's going on in the relationship. Matter of fact, I've got a couple breakup letters that I got for some elementary kids. This one's really good. This first one's from Stevie. I love this. Dear Keenan, I'm sorry we have to break up. You always try to make me laugh, but you just make yourself look bad. We're over. Full real love. Crossed out Stevie. Stevie's a gangster, that's all I'm saying. Like calm down. What happened to you in your childhood, all right? I like this next one. This is Rachel. Sean, I'm breaking up with you. You've not talked to me since the day you asked me out. That was 3 months ago. That's a typical guy, by the way. You need to get it together or you'll never get married. And that would be sad because you should get married, just not to me. Let's go. Rachel's mom, they're raising her right. She's like, man, you got to get that out of here. You ain't marrying this girl. I like Keenan though. Keenan might, this next one is maybe my favorite. Look at this next one right here. This is from DeLandry to Crystal. I'm breaking up with you. P.S. Happy anniversary though. That's good. That boy's got game. That's all I'm saying. He's like, I don't want to burn a bridge. I mean, you never know, right? Like, it's hard. It's like dating. It's like, I wish I could just, know who the person I'm gonna marry is. I could save a lot of this, but we know it's part of the process. And single adults, I'll be honest with you. It has been over 16 years since I went on my last first date. And so I fully acknowledge the dating game in 16 years, it has changed. It has changed. It's harder to date today. Because back in my day, you actually had to have game. Like you had to actually go up to a girl and ask her out with your mouth and like get her phone number. Today, you just like Facebook and Instagram stalk them, shoot them a DM, you start texting. I've learned the phrase ghost. That's why after like you can have this text conversation with somebody and then they just stop talking to you. It's hard, isn't it? Dating today is hard. I think it's why Sam Hunt, country artist, wrote really a very popular song last November called Breaking Up Was Easy in the 90s. Y'all hear this? Yeah, Breaking Up Was Easy. And the premise of the song is that today with social media and this little computer in your hand called a smartphone, that you constantly can be aware of what everybody else is doing. It's hard. So you're alone in your apartment on a Friday, scrolling through the gram, looking at everybody else's going on dates. You can see that girl just got engaged, and you think to yourself, I'm better than she is. How'd she get a man? I mean, she got nothing on me, right? Or you break up. Right? And you can still follow your ex on social media. And so you can see who they're now redating and who did they get married and their kids. And secretly you're cussing them out in your mind, right? It's harder. It's harder today. And here's what's interesting, single adults. With social media, it's never been easier to connect, but it's never been harder to be discontent. Have you noticed this? It's never been easier to connect, but it's never been harder to be discontent. And married couples, that's true for us too. Because all you got to do is scroll on the gram and you can see how their husband's treating their wife and the flowers that he got her and what she's doing for them and the trips that you're taking. But yet you know that's their highlight reel. But yet you start getting a little bit mad. Why aren't you doing that for me? It's never been easier to be connected, yet harder to be content. And so today I believe that just because you're single doesn't mean you've got to be stuck. That you can actually be single and secure. Matter of fact, today I think that there's some choices though that we have to make. And I want to pull out 3 choices that I see that Ruth made that made her single and secure. Here's the first choice if you're taking notes. You got to choose conviction over convenience. Are we okay? Is this too strong of a start? Yeah, you got to choose conviction over convenience. That's what I love about Ruth. See, in the historical setting of when this was taking place, the book of Ruth was written in between the period of the Judges. And during this time period, the nation of Israel was under a severe famine. Many of the Israelites were leaving Israel to go to neighboring nations to seek refuge and food and shelter. So Elimelech and Naomi, they leave and they go to Moab. Moab was a foreign nation. Matter of fact, way back in the Old Testament, they were enemies against Israel. So they found protection and they start working. They have a couple sons. These sons marry, of course, Moabite women. And in the midst of this process, Naomi's husband dies and her 2 sons. And so Naomi is looking at these 2 sisters, her sister-in-laws, her daughter-in-laws, and she's like, you guys, you should just stay here in Moab. Don't come with me. And notice the different responses by these 2 girls. Look at this in verse 14. It says, at this, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Orpah is like, I'm out. I'm going home where it's easy and convenient. But Ruth said, I'm sticking with you. Man, you want to be single and secure? Then you've got to have a life that's rooted in conviction, not compromised by convenience. And all of us have conviction, by the way. I mean, everybody has conviction. It doesn't matter really what you believe. You know what conviction is, right? It's a set of beliefs that you hold firmly to. And I would say that depending on what your convictions are determines what foundation you're building your life on. See, last Sunday, I introduced our key text for us. It's in Luke chapter 6. And I want to read it again because Jesus, in his opening sermon that he ever preached, that we have recorded in Scripture, he talks about 2 different foundations that everybody builds their life on. And what I love about this, and the reason why it's our key text, is because this is not like a marriage principle at first glance. This is individual. But really, that's what marriage is. That ultimately, it's about you being the best version of you to bring into the relationship. And so look what it says, Luke chapter 6. Jesus says, everyone who comes to me and hears my words and does them, he says, I'll show you what he's like. Man, that's like a man building a house who dug deep and laid a foundation on the rock. And so when the flood arose and the streams broke against the house, it could not shake because it had been well built. In other words, when you knowledge, you got to know what God says, and then obedience, you've got to be able to do it. And then he goes on, he says, but there's another option. Yeah, the one who hears these words, comes to church, leaves, goes to Cracker Barrel, and doesn't do anything that the preacher just said. Did I add that? Is that in your Bible? Sorry, let me give that. But the one who hears and does not do them, that's like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. Your translation might say sand. And when the stream broke against it, it immediately fell, and the ruin of that house was great. So ultimately, Jesus is like, there's two options, guys. Like, it doesn't matter what you believe, how you were raised. You're either intentionally building your house on the rock. And did you know that they had to dig down deep? In other words, if you're gonna build your life on the word of God, it is gonna take work, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But yet the foundation of Jesus Christ, it's the only foundation that has the strength to withstand the storm. Because look, storms are coming. I don't got to tell you that. You know this to be true. Like, life happens. Life is hard. We live in a fallen, broken world. And when the storm comes, the only thing that determines whether this will break you or build you is your foundation. You got to build it on the rock. Because the other option is it's sand. Yeah, sand is everywhere. It's shifting. It's fading. It's common. It's impulse. It's instant gratification. And I wonder today, what are you building your life on? Because that directly impacts how you're building your relationships. That's why last Sunday we introduced these 5 relational principles. And I love this, by the way. To me, this is like a game changer. I talked to a guy last Sunday. He's like, man, if I only would have known this 20 years ago. And I'm with you, because no one taught me this. That psychologists have determined there are 5 relational ingredients that all of us have to interact with. And so, staying true to our 80s theme, this is, of course, Tetris form. How many of y'all played Tetris back in the day? Let's go. And I love this right here. And a friend of mine, Matthew, designed, created, produced this. Can y'all help me? He's on the front row. I'm going to embarrass you real quick, man. This is amazing right here. Love it. I love watching people use their giftings to build up the body of Christ. That's all I'm going to say right there. But this is, right, so if you're going to build your relationship the way God designs it, then it has to start here, spiritual. That Jesus Christ has to be my foundation. Why? Because I can only get my identity from the God who created me. Emily can't give me this, and if I don't recognize that, then I'm gonna try to have her give me something that she's not qualified to give to me. So my foundation has to be Jesus, and I keep doing this, and I keep doing this. And then if Jesus is my foundation, guess what? Social. That's gonna inform the social settings that I try to meet people. I'm just saying, if Christ is your foundation, I don't know if you really want to meet your future spouse in the club or the bar. I'm not saying you can't be a Christian and go to the club. All right, you do you. I'm not saying you can't be a Christian and go to the bar. I'm just saying that might not be the pond you want to fish in to tie your life to somebody. Some of you are like, yeah, but I met my spouse at the bar. Exactly, that's okay. That's not fair. That's a misuse, I get it. No, but I want my spiritual life, my relationship with Jesus to inform my social settings. That's where I'm gonna meet people. If I'm married, I wanna stay in great, so that's why we do life groups. This isn't all we do, this is what we really do. It's called life group. Get environments where people who love you, who are gonna challenge you, who aren't just gonna tell you what you wanna hear, but ultimately what you need to hear. So I wanna get good people in my life, and then interpersonal. Man, that's maybe my favorite. Because interpersonal, that's all about compatibility. Physical and emotional, I'll hit this in a second. This is chemistry. You have chemistry with a lot of people, all right? But you don't have compatibility with everybody. This is about hopes and dreams, and are our lives aligned enough to go in the same direction? Like, do we have the same kind of common goals and views? And so this is their inner person, and you only discover their inner person when you date them. It takes time, because the first 6 to 8 months, they're lying to you. They're just showing you the best version of themselves. We all do it, right? And then once I realize that, man, we are compatible, then it's emotional. Man, this is where all the feels come in. And then this is the one we all really want, right? Because this is where you get married right here. And then on that honeymoon, you save sex, the emoji wink. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk, okay? Yeah, you save that for your spouse. You know why? Because sex is binding. Sex is spiritual before it's ever physical. And hold on, we're gonna talk about that in a couple weeks. But this right here, when I begin to build it God's way, this begins to work. This is a foundation that can begin to withstand some of these unexpected storms that life inevitably is gonna throw at you. But this is hard. You know why this is hard? Because culture just says, do what's convenient. Go back to Moab. Like, I'm just going back to Moab, and I wonder how many of us compromise because of convenience, just simply because that's what the crowd is doing. But I came today to remind you, child of God, you're not built for the crowd. You're not like everybody else. You're not one who lives with the majority. You're called to stand out. You are his son. You are his daughter. When everybody else is going back to Moab, I'm staying with Ruth. When everybody else is compromising, I'm standing with conviction. When everyone else is putting their kids in front of their marriage, I'm putting my spouse in front of my kids. When everyone else is giving up their purity, I'm holding mine for my spouse because I'm building my life on the solid rock of Jesus Christ. Come on, you with me today? You're not made for the majority. You're called to stand out. And so many of us, I wonder, where are your convictions rooted? So, single adults, here's your application, because we got some work to do. Let me ask you a question. What are your relational convictions? Have you ever written those out? If you don't, you need to write out, what are my relational convictions? And I don't mean like, what's your ideal man profile, like that you wrote when you were 12. Like, I'm just convicted the Lord is gonna send me a tall, dark, handsome man with a chiseled body who might sound like Harry Connick Jr. I'm just saying, like, or Denzel, I'll take either one. Like, not that, I mean like deeper than that. Like maybe my conviction is I'm not gonna really get seriously involved unless that person actually loves Jesus. Yeah, not they go to church. Listen, you can be in church but not in Christ. On that first day when they tell you that they go to church, say, oh, that's great, but what's God teaching you lately? If they look at you like they're deer in the headlights, you might wanna pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah, what are your convictions? Maybe another conviction is like, I'm gonna only seriously date people that have a vision for their life. That's someone who's going somewhere, someone that has a job. Like I'm gonna date somebody who isn't bound by an addiction and a stronghold, because I can't save them and I can't fix them. They need Jesus, not me. And I don't wanna marry a project, I wanna marry a partner. So single adults, if you've never done it, write it down. What are your relational convictions? And if you're in a life group this week, why don't you share a couple of them? How about married couples? Come on, this is an all play. I told you, I got you here too. What are your marriage convictions? You ever thought about this? You ever actually sat down as a husband and a wife and said, these are our marriage convictions? If not, this is a great thing to do in the next 6 days before next week. I'll give you a couple of Emily and I's, and I'm hesitant to tell you this because you don't have to make these yours, but I'll just give you two as a way of an example. Number one, in our marriage, we are convicted. Divorce is not an option. It's not an option. We don't play around with that word. We don't throw it around. It's not funny. So you know what that means? There's so much freedom, because that means that when we fight, we know the other one's not leaving. So we might as well like fight for each other, and let's fight and make up so we can get to the makeup stuff, because that's a real thing. That's all I'm saying. Like, I ain't going nowhere. Like, let's fight for each other. That's a conviction. Here's another conviction we have. That's 100% honesty. That's a firmly held belief, 100% honesty in our marriage. You know what that means? It means Emily practically, she has full access to my phone. She knows my passwords, my emails, she can see my text messages. We share the same bank account, everything. And I don't get offended if she wants to pull up my phone and kind of look through it and what I've been looking at. Why? Because I got nothing to hide from her. It's 100% honesty. Married couples, if your spouse doesn't have access to your phone, if you share separate bank accounts and you don't know what the other one's doing in that account, you need to ask yourself, why? Because I'm not a counselor. I'm not a counselor, so this is not counseling advice. All I'm saying is that just seems logically like a recipe for disaster. Married couples, what are your marriage convictions? Ruth says, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here with you. Look at verse 16. But Ruth replied, so she's talking to Naomi, mother-in-law, don't urge me to leave you or to stay back from you. Where you go, I go. And where you stay, I will stay. Ooh, that's good poetry, man. You should reaffirm this to your wife later today. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. And when Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. I love this word, urge. I love this word, urge, this idea of persistency, pushing. And this is the mainline message of culture, right? Just follow your urges. Just give in. It's all about emotional and physical. Like, don't worry, love conquers all. Just give in. And here's the reality. You're not 100% at fault. Now, at the end of the day, you make your own choices, But like this idea of emotion and physical attraction being the God in our relationship, that's been indoctrinated into us since we were kids. You ever thought about Disney? I love you, Walt, and I appreciate your theme parks, and your movies are great. But the central message of every Disney movie is this right here. Love fixes everything. So I just gotta fall in love, and once I fall in love, it's gonna be amazing because love is the fixer. It's gonna be great. Even though we don't like each other right now, it's okay. We'll be in love, and love is what will be the thing that fixes us. No, it won't. No, it doesn't. Love reveals, it doesn't fix. But have you thought about these movies that we love, like Beauty and the Beast? Got any Beauty and the Beast fans? Like top 5, I love Beauty and the Beast. I even love the new versions that they're coming out with. But have you thought about the hit song in that? Tale as old as time, true as it can be, barely even friends, then somebody bends. That's horrible. They barely know each other and we're already compromising. Unexpectedly, right? Just a little change, small to say the least. Neither one prepared, both of us are scared. Beauty and the Beast. So, and I know it sounds so good, especially when John Legend sings it, but it's horrible advice. And the line, y'all, that gets me is the line, just a little change. He literally turned species. He was an animal that turned into a human. Like maybe the reason why, sweetheart, you keep getting your heart broken is because you keep dating animals expecting them to be human. Y'all ready? Is this too much? Is this too much? Yeah, why? Because urges, it's just, just gotta give in to my urges. I just go where the urge pushes me to. You know what we call people who constantly give in to urges? Children. I have 3 of them, I know, I'm an expert in this. Parents, all day long, you have the same conversation. You hear it all the time too. Daddy, mommy, daddy, what are you doing today? What are you doing? Can they come over? Can we do this? Can we have a sleepover? What's for dinner? Can I have this? Can I have a snack? Can I have tea? Can I have Coke? What's going on? Daddy. This is the reason why parents hide out in the bathroom. You're not even going to the bathroom. It's just the only place where you can get 5 uninterrupted minutes. Like forget the man cave in the bonus room. Bring that 75-inch plasma TV, the refrigerator, and the recliner in my bathroom. It's the only room in my house that I have a lock on. I feel this. And so maybe the reason why you're frustrated in your relationships is because you're dating, or even worse, you married a child. Now just look right at me like I'm not talking to your spouse next to you. Just right. I love you enough to tell you this, but can I tell you something? Your conviction, it will tell you to stay when your urges are telling you to leave. Your conviction will say don't compromise when your urges are telling you to give in. Are you a person of conviction and principle, or are you just given to your urges? You want to be single and secure? Choose conviction. Love this about Ruth. Look at chapter 2, verse 2. So Naomi and Ruth, they head back to Bethlehem, which is where Naomi was from. Naomi gets the idea she ain't going nowhere. And they begin to make their journey back. And when they arrive, Naomi's husband had a brother. So this is her brother-in-law. His name was Boaz. And Boaz was wealthy, owned a lot of fields. He also loved the Lord, was a man of God. One of the things that he did, according to the Old Testament Torah, which would have been like their Bible back then, was he was very generous. And so at harvest season, which is what they're about to enter into, he would allow the poor and the widows from the community to come and collect all the grain that he and his household could not use. And so Ruth shows up, and immediately she gets to work. She lowers herself. She begins to serve, and look what happens next. Ruth chapter 2, verse 2. So Naomi said to her, that's Ruth, go ahead, my daughter. So she went out ahead and entered into a field that belonged, then began to glean behind the harvesters. And as it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Just then Boaz arrived back from Bethlehem, and he greeted the harvesters, and he said, the Lord be with you, and the Lord bless you, they answered. And Boaz asked the overseers of his harvest, who that girl? Who's she? I didn't see her on the block. Where'd she come from? Right? I'm convinced that if the Bible had an R&B version, that's what it would be right there. Who does that woman belong to? Can I tell you the second choice that I see that she's making to be single and secure? Number 2, you got to choose faithfulness over desperation. You got to choose to be faithful, not desperate. Can I help you? when you make decisions out of desperation, it only leads to damage. And if anybody had the right to make desperate decisions, honestly, guys, it was Naomi and Ruth. Because, I mean, think about this. In a 10-year window, Naomi lost her husband, her 2 boys. In normal circumstances, that would almost be too much to bear. But then you add on top of it, like Jewish Old Testament culture, where women, you did not have rights like you do today. Women were devalued. This is why Jesus is amazing. This is another sermon another time. So for a woman in the Old Testament, marriage was more about protection and provision than it was even about love. So the fact that Naomi and Ruth have no men to protect them, to provide for them, this is the epitome of poor and exposed. I mean, their lives are so much out there, but yet they chose faithfulness. Ruth said, I'm not getting desperate now. God's been this good to me. I'm not about to look back now. I'm gonna be faithful to Naomi. I'm gonna be faithful to God. And I know this is tough, Life Point, singles, when you're trying to find someone and it's so easy to compromise like everybody else, but you're trying to be faithful. This is so hard when you're in a loveless marriage and yet you're trying to stick it out and you're trying to be faithful. But what I want you to see is that faithfulness leads to Boaz. In other words, when you do right things find you. When you do the right things find you. That's faithfulness. Faithfulness, it's long-term commitment in the same right direction. And when I do right things, guess what? Right things begin to find me. And I do believe in faith that you're gonna have a Ruth 2 verse 3 moment. To me, these first 4 words are the strongest words in the entire 4-chapter book that this story is made up of. Look at this right here. And as it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz. It just so happened to be as it turned out. You ever had a as it turned out moment in your life? I have. When I was a junior in college, I was doing a 7-month internship at my home church in Cincinnati. And it was a blessing in disguise because just a few months before that, my parents had separated, they had divorced. If you know my story, drugs and alcohol ripped our family apart. My dad really went off the deep end for about 18 months, didn't really hear much from him. And so that internship allowed me to be at home with my mom and my 11, 12-year-old brother at the time. So I got to really help be there for them. Well, the internship was coming to an end, and I remember I was at a crossroad in my life. I didn't want to go back to Tennessee to school. I didn't even know if I wanted to pursue ministry anymore. So I'll never forget, I called my pastor. I said, hey, can we meet? I go over to his office, and I'll never forget that moment. It's one of those moments where you can remember what the room looked like. You ever had one of those? And I sat down and I began to tell him, like, man, I just feel like I need to be here for my mom and my brother. I don't even know if I'm gonna do ministry. And I'll never forget, he cuts me off and he says, Nate, you need to go back to Tennessee and finish what you started. You got a call of God on your life, and you need to let us, the local church, take care of your family. And I did. And it was like, that was the permission that I need. I felt so guilty, but I needed that permission. And so I go back to Tennessee. It's midway through my junior year. I didn't have dating on my mind. I didn't have marriage on my mind. I was broken. And I show up on campus in the beginning of the semester. It's a Bible college. They do a prayer rally night. And I show up and they divided all of us into these groups. And in each group was about 10 or 15 college students. And I'm getting in this group and we're in a circle. And I look up and across from me was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my life. As it turned out, there was Emily. Sure enough, it took me about a month to build up the courage to finally ask her out. And there she was, as it turned out. I know you don't want to hear this. Look, I know you're single and you're 30 and you got that crazy aunt that keeps asking you what's wrong with you. I get it. I know you're in a loveless marriage. Some of you, like, you're the believer in the marriage, but your spouse isn't. And that's just a whole nother hard dynamic where you feel like you're alone. But I'm telling you, if you will be faithful, as it turned out, because of her faithfulness, not because of making decisions out of desperation, all of a sudden, right things, look, when you do this, you don't have to go looking for what's right, because what's right will come looking for you. That as it turned out, there was Boaz. Look, when you make decisions out of desperation, you don't get Boaz, you get broke-az. You get mean as, selfish as. Listen, you don't get Boaz. When you're desperate, you get his crazy cousin weak as, lazy, punch you in the face as. That's what you get. Listen, if that offends you, seriously, I really do care. I want you to email me at Gary@LifePoint. It's true. Yeah, no. In these moments of life, choose faithfulness. And I believe you'll have an as it turned out moment. And so that's what she does. Look at verse 8. And so Boaz said to Ruth, now they're talking, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in other fields, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. And I've told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, girl, you can drink from my jars. I don't know if your version says that. That's basically what he's saying. He's spitting game. Girl, you get thirsty. Okay. You can drink from the jars that the men have filled. At this, men, ladies, don't you love her grace? At this she fell and bowed down with her face to the ground. And she asked, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you noticed me? Here's the third choice. If you're gonna be single and secure, you ready? You gotta choose becoming over finding. You gotta choose becoming over finding. Yeah, when you read the story of Ruth, you kind of get this idea that she's not like obsessed with finding the one, but that's what culture, you just need to find the one, right? And so we're just in this finding mode. It's like, I just graduated college. I'm not really dating anybody, so I got to find the one. Now I'm 25, now I'm 30. I got to find the one. Where's the one? Are they in this church? So I go to this church, and I don't see them. They're in this church, so I go to that church. I go to this life group, and then I'm on that life group. I go to this life. It's all about finding. But I want you to know today that if you are looking to the Word of God to find someone, you will be greatly disappointed. But if you will come to the Word of God looking to become someone, this book will come alive. Because God is way more concerned about who you're becoming than who you marry. Because if you find the one, but you're not the one, then you're gonna mess it up. It's about every single day of my marriage, every single day of my singleness, God, I'm gonna be the one, and I'm gonna be faithful. I'm gonna trust you with your timing. God, I choose becoming over finding. And I want you to know, single adults, that singleness, it is not a sickness. I don't care what your mama says. It is not a sickness. Singleness is not a prison sentence that you have to serve. You know what it is? Singleness, it's a season of cultivation. That's what singleness is. It's a season of your life where God's trying to cultivate you. You know how I know this? Because in Genesis chapter 2, when God created Adam, and he said, it is not good for man or mankind. Notice what God didn't say. He doesn't say it's not good for man to be single. He said it's not good for man to be alone. In other words, just because you're single doesn't mean you have to be alone. Don't buy that lie. I know a lot of single adults who have great friends, who are doing great things with their life, who are pouring into their career, who are volunteering, who are making an impact, and they are deeply known. And the other side of that coin is true too. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're known. I'm just gonna say it. There are a lot of married couples right now where you're married, but you feel alone. That's one of the worst experiences. Yeah, I'm not telling you that finding someone isn't important. I'm just saying it can't be a main priority or you'll be greatly disappointed. It's the reason why I said in the beginning that you should never stop being good at being single. You know what I mean by that? You should always allow the Lord to cultivate you. Married couples never stop letting Jesus cultivate you and prune you and cut back all those areas of your life where you have selfishness and insecure and anger and all. I want to be a blessing to Emily, not a burden. And the only way is if I have an open heart and say, Lord, every season of my life, I want you to cut me back and cut away the areas that are not of you. You know why? I actually didn't read this last service. Do you know why Boaz was attracted to her? I'm gonna read it again. It's in verse 11. I hope this gives you so much life. Boaz replied, I've been told all about what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and your mother and your homeland and came to live with the people that you, I've been told. He was attracted to Ruth because of the law of attraction. You know what the law of attraction states? It states that you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. I know you want that in a man, but are you that? I know you want that in a marriage, but are you that first? I know what you want, but the Bible would say, are you that? Because you attract not what you want, but ultimately who you are. And so the central theme I want you to grab with this message is never stop becoming. Never stop becoming. Because church, this is not really a message about a love story. This isn't even really about Ruth and Boaz. Like all of my messages, there's a deeper meaning that connects us to Jesus. For Jesus is the greater Boaz. What do I mean? Well, Boaz and Ruth would go on and get married. And they would have a son, and his name would be Obed. And Obed would have a son named Jesse. And Jesse would have a lot of sons. And one of those sons would be a boy named David. And David would grow up to be the king over the nation of Israel. And out of the lineage of David, guess who came to an unmarried couple in the barn in Bethlehem? Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. Boaz is a foreshadow of who Jesus is going to be for you and I. Both were born in Bethlehem, and both were the kinsman redeemer. You know what a kinsman redeemer is? It's a beautiful picture in the Old Testament of what Christ is for us in the New Testament. That a kinsman redeemer was a family member who had the ability to redeem, to restore, to take back what was lost to another family member. So follow this. The fact that Naomi had Boaz, her brother-in-law, he actually had the ability to restore everything that Naomi and her late husband had lost. So when Boaz marries Ruth, he's not just marrying Ruth, but yet he's reversing everything in her life that had already been averted, restoring everything back that she had lost. Hey, I know Jesus isn't on the scene yet, but that's got Jesus all over it, doesn't it? Because about 1,000 years later, in a barn would come our kinsman redeemer. And he didn't come in on a high horse. He stepped down from the highest of heavens, and he came to seek and save that which is lost. In other words, he looked at you and I. He saw us in our guilt. He saw us in our sin, in our wandering, in our spiritual depravity, and he went to the cross, and he redeemed you. He bought you back. He told the devil, what's it gonna take for me to purchase her, to purchase him? Oh, my life? So he went to a cross, and he died for you. And in that moment, he purchased you back in full. And the scandal of grace is so amazing that he then put a ring on your finger because you are his bride, to remind you that no matter how much you sin, how far you run from God, nothing can separate you from his love. No height, no depth, nor love can separate you from the arms of Jesus Christ. Aren't you grateful for that today? He's redeemed you. He's bought you back. That's what, okay, Ruth, that's really what this is about. This is about you and Jesus. So I wonder today, where are you at? Matter of fact, all across this room, I just want to invite you to stand. Would you do that wherever you're at? If you're online, stay with us. I want to have a moment. The band's going to come out now, and we're just going to respond through worship. Worship is a powerful weapon. And last Sunday, we had a really amazing moment. We had our prayer team come down, and they're going to come down right now as well. There's also going to be some that are along the wall, so you don't have to come down front. And I think literally hundreds of couples got prayed for. It was amazing. And so today, I realized that last Sunday might have felt like that prayer moment was really geared toward married couples. So today, singles, this is for you. Matter of fact, in a moment when we pray, I want you to be the first one out. We want to pray over your life. This isn't like I'm single and I'm struggling. If you are, great. This is for everybody, realizing that there's so much compromise going on right now. It is so easy to just settle and out of desperation make destructive choices. And maybe you have, but this is about family. Somebody wants to pray a blessing. You don't even have to tell them what it is that you're going through. You just come down and they're just gonna pray a prayer of protection and blessing over you. And maybe you're married and you didn't get to come down last week. Or maybe you were a little bit nervous. You come on down. We wanna pray over you, pray over your marriage, and we wanna see God do something great in your life. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for these moments. God, these are special moments. This isn't just an average Sunday in April, God. This is something shifting in our hearts and in our families. I believe that new branches in our family tree will be birthed from these moments right here. A branch, God, that our kids and our kids' kids can build off of. But God, we got to have the courage. Lord, I pray for every single adult in this room, God, that in a moment they come down and they just let somebody pray over them. I pray for every marriage that maybe didn't come down last week, that they'll come down and say, man, we just want you to pray for us. And so, God, we give you everything. We thank you, Lord. It's in your name. Amen. Amen. Come on, let's move. Let's move.
Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will